Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I thought we would talk about how to pick colors. I know that's something that everyone asks, how do I pick colors? How do I make it look good? I don't want to ruin my page. So what we're gonna do is use this new coloring book by Hikaru Kotz called Stress Relief. And what's really great about this book is it is a panel art coloring book. I actually haven't seen any other coloring books do this yet, so this is pretty clever. And this will allow us to very easily pick colors that will help a page look cohesive. And especially if you're new to picking colors, this layout will just make it a little bit simpler than if you're just looking at one giant page and trying to figure out where colors should go. So we're gonna start with this page here. Oops, and once again, boy, I keep hitting Fudgy in the face with coloring books. I'm gonna just have to move him back. This is my coloring buddy today. I'm sure you all have seen him before. He's just absolutely cute. I did not name him, but that is the name he came with, Fudgy. He's a little s'more, and he's gonna hang out with us while we color today. He can guard the markers, make sure they don't roll away off the desk. In a panel art coloring book, you actually have exactly what you see, several panels. And when you're picking colors on a regular coloring page, it's kind of like in your mind, you do sort of divide things up and say, okay, well, in this section, what colors am I going to have that will also mirror maybe up in this section, so that when someone looks at the page, it looks very cohesive. It's not just random colors sort of placed everywhere. There's some unity, and that helps the page to feel a little bit more complete, a little bit more polished. And when you come to the end of coloring the page, you're probably gonna like it a lot more. So for example, in this page, we've got some grassy areas. So we would definitely color this green, maybe the leaves green, the top of the strawberries green, down here green, these leaves green. If you aren't sure what colors to choose, do the colors that you already know, that make sense to you. And then as you go along, the other colors will just start to fall in place. Like for example, we've got strawberries, that's gonna be red. Well, to tie that in, we could make this mushroom red. So now we've got red here and red here. And then we could also make these flower heads here red. And then also this cardinal red. So now we're tying in the red. So as you can see, it's not super hard to make it cohesive. It's just a little bit of forethought in figuring out where some of your colors should go to help tie the page together. And before we get too far along, I just want to remind you that I did put 2 sheets of paper behind my page. These are just copy paper, nothing fancy, just a couple sheets behind the page that I'm going to color, so that way the ink won't bleed through onto the page behind it. If you aren't sure about your colors, what you have in your collection, so I made these, it's just little swatch cards. And if you want the exact same ones that I use, I actually have these for sale at my Etsy store. It's like less than $2. And it allows you to write the brand of marker, and then also if there's a name or a number indicator, and then you can just swatch the colors. And the reason why I like having these is because just looking at a whole bunch of caps in a box, in a marker box, it's really hard to know what colors you actually have. Most markers don't provide the exact shade. I will say Copic is a bit unique because their colors actually match a lot better with their marker caps, but still it's nicer to have it on paper because then you can take your colors and you can see, okay, well, let's see, how do these 2 colors look together? Or how do these 3 colors look together? It gives you options so that you can make your pages actually look really nice, because you already know in advance what colors will look pretty together and what colors will complement, and also what colors that will not work with that. And then also, because these are so small, it allows you to really line them up with other colors. If you have a big sheet of pages, like just maybe an 8.5 by 11 with a whole bunch of swatches on it, that's really hard to like hold them and say, okay, well this works with that, but now I can't see the other colors because it's on the other end of this page. So I like having them small. I think it works really great for my coloring, and they're also really easy to just throw in a bag if you're traveling. So I'll put the link to that in the description if you need these. But again, you can always just make them yourself. You know, if you have a piece of paper, you can make yourselves your own little coloring swatch sheets. Let's just set that aside. So I think to begin, let's start with the stuff that we know. So I know I want the sky to be blue. And yes, I could probably do a cool gradient here, but for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna keep it very simple. And I'm just gonna do a blue sky. So I'm gonna use this Copic Chow, it's a BG01, and we're gonna color in everything that's sky. So I'm gonna start up here because that's sky, and then I'm gonna color this. And I think this could be any color because of the way it's drawn, but I think I'm also gonna make this sky because then I'm tying in a little bit more blue, because this one doesn't have any blue, so I don't want it to just be in these two sections. I'd rather have it at least in 3 of the 4. And if you're new to coloring with markers and you aren't sure how to eliminate marker streaks, the key is keeping wet with wet. Just don't let any of your edges dry. And don't focus on trying to cover a lot of area. That's going to happen as you keep wet with wet. You just want to keep doing a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time. And eventually the whole area will be covered and you won't have any streaks. Okay, so we're done with that one. Let me set that aside. And then we've got just a couple little raindrops. And I didn't want to do that in the exact same blue, so I'm going to use a lighter one. This is a BG 000. Okay, so now let's move on to the grassy areas. So we're going to take this lighter green, the YG 06, and we'll color all of these little grassy areas. Oh, actually, that is not the right green. I do this all the time. This is more of a neon green, and I always want the YG03. And every time I grab this one. So let me go grab the right marker. Okay, that is much better. We've got a lot less neon going on. This is the YG03. So this is what we're going to use for all of our grassy areas. If you've ever wondered, how do you know if your Copic is almost out of ink? Can you see that on the end? It's starting to turn white. That tells me that this needs a refill. This color I use all the time. It is my favorite green of any of the greens, clearly because my marker is almost out of ink. And I will say it does make it a lot harder to not have streaks when your marker is about to dry out. So I think we're okay. I don't see streaks so far, but I am gonna have to refill this because this thing is almost dead. The nice thing with Copics is it's so easy to get refills for them, and they're super easy to refill. They even have their own little set of tweezers that you can pull one of the brush ends out and just refill it from there. I'm not sure if the marker's gonna last through this bush, but we're gonna push it through and see if I can color this one bush before I have to go refill this thing. Feels very suspenseful in my world right now, because if it doesn't work, I'm gonna have streaks for sure that I'm gonna have to fix. Okay, so we're gonna try the other end. I don't usually use chisel. We're gonna see if there's anything still on this end that will get us to the finish line on this small little bush. Okay, whew, well, definitely gonna have to refill that. Now, I was originally going to use this green for these leaves, but you know what? That's okay. I have another green that I plan on using on this page, so I'm gonna use it for these leaves, and it'll still help tie everything together. So if you ever have this problem where your marker just decides it's done, and you're in the middle of a fun page, you can swap it out for other colors and still keep things cohesive. So we're going to use this YG17, and we're gonna color the darker green elements. So like these leaves here, the leaves on these flowers, and then these leaves here. And I think I'm also gonna do the strawberry tops in this green. It's gonna at first look like it just is all one big blob of color, But down the road, when I get to this with colored pencils, which is how I prefer to color marker first, then when it dries, use colored pencils to add depth and dimension, I can always very easily change these colors up so that they don't just look like one shade of green. A nice thing with doing your features with colored pencils is you have that option, especially if you don't have a lot of marker colors. Maybe you're brand new to coloring and you just have a few essential colors. That's okay. So that's where your investment went, right? In your alcohol markers, because they're pretty pricey. But then you can use colored pencils, which are a lot cheaper, to add more colors to your page and make it feel like you had a bunch more colors that you didn't own in marker. So it's kind of a nice little save. So let's take this YG17 and we're going to color in the leaves. And I think I'm actually going to start over here. Look at the difference. Whew, this guy's got lots of ink in him. And then we'll come up over here, color these strawberries. You might be wondering, if all of this is green, why am I not just coloring the whole thing instead of doing each element one by one? There's a couple reasons for that. So one, I just prefer not to color a big glob. But two, everywhere there's a black line, you get almost a save so that you don't have streaks. So if you color within each little section, then it's less likely you're going to have streaks because you're not covering such a large area. But also when you're coloring in these areas that have a lot of elements, if you just color a big glob of something, it's really easy to get that wrong. So like, what if this wasn't the stem? What if this was a break between these two leaves? Well, now you just colored it as a stem. You know, here, of course, it works because it is a stem. But on pages that have maybe a lot of complicated elements, it's a lot easier to get the colors in the right spot if you just color each element. And then as colors apply to that, your brain starts to see what's left. And it's a lot easier to pick out the rest of the things that should have that same color. And then you won't run into the problem of accidentally coloring something the wrong color, because at the time it looked like the right thing to do, but then as you got color on the page, you realized it was actually part of something else that shouldn't be that color, which has happened to all of us. If it's happened to you, don't feel bad. It's not a big deal. It's, you know, it happens to everyone, so not anything to worry about. And then it's something that you can learn from. And that's how I learned, because I used to just color big globs, and then I was like, you know what, I keep getting this wrong. And if I just color each element individually, I get it right more often, especially on some of those more complicated pages that have like a bunch of flowers and leaves and they're all intertwined. Those can be really challenging to know which is leaf, which is sky, which is part of a flower petal. So my recommendation is just color the pieces individually. Less likely you're gonna have marker streaks, and it's just gonna make it a lot easier and a more fun coloring experience, which is what we all want. Now, if my YG03 hadn't died, I probably would have done these stems in this color. But again, it's not the end of the world. I just like to have a little bit more variety in more places, not just here's one shade of green in this area, but again, I can always come at this with some coloring pencils and change this up. So super simple. And if you aren't sure how to use coloring pencils on top of marked areas, I have lots of videos that teach you specifically how to do that. I also have my other series, From Flat to Fabulous, where I just feature one specific section on a page and show you how to use colored pencils to do blending, highlights, shadows, and just make things really pop on the page. So you can check that out in my channel. So that's looking really good, and you can already see we haven't really done anything much but a couple of colors, and already it feels cohesive. It feels like these things belong together, and it has like a nice look. When you go to each box, your eye wants to go to each box because the colors are united. So let's now take some of our feature colors, like our reds and our oranges, and let's color in some of these other elements. Now let's take this Tombow 992. This is a water-based marker, and you might be thinking, why on earth are we using water-based when we have alcohol markers? Well, water-based does have its place, and I like using them for wood effects. It's really simple, really easy to create beautiful wood effects, and let me just show you. It's so simple. So we're going to color this little picket fence with this, and the trick with water-based is to have a plan. So don't just go scribbling everywhere you're thinking you're going to put this color. With water-based, even if I'm not doing a wood look, which is what this is creating already, I would still do lines. And the reason why is because it just helps the page to look better, the color lays down better, and it gives you something to work with when you use your colored pencils. You have like a nice texture, and then you can do your shadows and highlights on top of that texture, and it just really adds some nice things to the page. So we're just gonna do a whole bunch of lines, and as I'm showing you, it's really not that hard, but you do wanna pay attention to the direction of the line. So if I'm trying to do wood, obviously this would be a vertical direction for these parts, but this piece would be a horizontal direction. So we're gonna do some lines horizontally. And the way you can make a really easy wood grain is just let the tip of the brush touch just where the end of the other line was. That's it, super easy. And if you're coming with a curve, you see how there's that little white gap there? Then you just touch with the brush down and then come across. Touch with the brush down and come across. So very simple. This is my favorite way to make wood grain because it just works. It looks like wood, and I didn't have to put a lot of effort into it. I could use colored pencils to add more detail to this, but if I don't want to, I don't have to, and I still get this beautiful look of wood grain using this brush tip marker. So there isn't really a spot up here to add this color, so I'm thinking maybe we'll add it to this mushroom base, and then maybe to the flower pot. Maybe, I don't know if I want to do the whole thing or just part of it, but let's just start with the mushroom and go from there. Now you might be thinking, well, the mushroom isn't wood. That's okay. It isn't necessarily that it has to look like wood. It just is a nice feature here. As soon as you put it on something that looks like it's supposed to be wood, the brain will recognize that as wood. This just looks like an organic texture, which is fine too. It also works there. So it's nice. Water-based gives you textures because sometimes you need that. You don't want everything to just be flat. You know, maybe I will just do this whole thing in water-based. It's working for us, I'm liking it, and it'll help tie our colors together in another panel. Okay, so let's say you did this, and then you were like, you know what, I should have done this maybe this direction, this horizontal, or this vertically and this horizontally. That's not a big deal because especially with water-based, they are very easy to cover with colored pencil. So I would just come over this with a brown pencil and I would just add my lines in here, and it would create more texture, but I can also use it to do shadowing, so it wouldn't look out of place. So it's kind of nice. With water-based, there's a lot of saves, and I do like that I'm not rushed. Like I could get a phone call and I'm halfway through this flower pot, take the phone call, and come right back and nothing's changed. It's not like, oh no, these horrible streaks I gotta take care of. It's so simple and very easy. So when I can use water-based, I do like to incorporate them on my page. Now we've got the red, let's do the red, yeah. So let's do this little mushroom, the strawberries, this cardinal, and then our flowers. So this is an RV29. And I like using the red violets instead of just the regular crisp reds. I feel like if it has just a tint of violet to it, it gives you a little bit more of a, I don't know, a more interesting look than just a flat in-your-face red. It has a little bit of a complexity to it, and it kind of ties in nicely with some of these other colors. So you'll see that I use this one a lot more than just a regular red, but that's just personal preference. Okay, I love that color pop there. Now we'll add this red to the strawberries. And then to the flowers. And then also to this little cardinal. Okay, and then let's use this YR15. And we're gonna color in the little snail, this butterfly, these two little tulips, and then the cardinal's little beak and feet. All right, so the only thing we have left is this little bag, and we don't have a way to tie whatever this color is going to be anywhere else on the page. And I don't wanna make it any of the other colors because I think it would just be boring. If I made this orange, it's just gonna be too much orange. If I made it red, it would just be too much red. I just don't like that idea. So what I'm gonna do is take my swatch sheets, and first I'm gonna pull out the red. So we've got the RV29, so that's all of those. And then we use the YR15, so let me line that up there. And then let me see, I think I wanna either grab my other stack. So I think I either wanna do a purple or a turquoise. And that's again why it's nice to have these on little swatch sheets, because then you can really line them up and get an idea. So I've got this RV29. If I did this BG15, now let's put it next to the R15, the YR15. I can kind of see, you can kind of do that sometimes. It makes it a little bit easier to know. Do they look good together? I think they actually look really great together, but now let's try that with this purple and see if the purple would be better. So it looks good with the orange, but does this purple look good with that red? It also looks good with that red, yeah. So I guess, you know, it could go either or, the purple for the bag, because it ties in nicely with our other feature colors, or the turquoise. If I want this to really kind of blend, then if I do this turquoise, I've already used something in this color family, so I used the BG01. So if I use the BG15, then I'm already just taking a different shade of this and putting it here. So it's gonna make it sort of blend in a way, because it's still in the same color family. But if I did this color, this V06, then it's gonna make this stand out. So there's a couple things when you're coloring that you wanna keep in mind. One is, how do you keep your colors cohesive, which is what we've done in this page. The second thing is, what do you want to be your feature? What's gonna stand out on your page? And sometimes you can make that happen with just a different color in one area. Sometimes you can make that happen with colored pencils, because you can subdue the areas that you don't want to be featured and brighten up the areas that you do. So there's a couple different ways to make something the center of attention, but you should figure out what you want to be the center of attention, because a cohesive page is good, but if it's just all kind of the same, it's nice because it all fits together, but what do you want to stand out? Is there one thing that says, this is what I want you to look at because this is my favorite part, and so I colored it as such? And sometimes that can happen just because of the way the page is drawn, and then other times it can happen because of how you color it. So pick your pages carefully. If it's a page that's just a sea of 1,000 objects and they're all about the same size, you're probably gonna have a harder time making something on that page stand out as the feature, because it's just all a sea of little things and there isn't something maybe bigger or smaller than all the rest of the stuff. So you need contrast in size, contrast in shape, maybe contrast in color, and that's how you bring someone's eye to the part of the page that was your favorite, that you wanted to feature and you wanted it to stand out, versus having it all just sort of blend together. So what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm actually gonna color this purple, because I want this to be where people look. And of course, with colored pencil later, I can add to this to even amplify this up. But even if I don't do that, just by making this purple, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, your eye's gonna say, oh, look at all these colors. They all tie together so cohesively, that's pretty. And then you're gonna drop here and it's gonna be like, oh, there's some purple here. You know, like their brain probably isn't gonna say there's purple here, but they're gonna keep coming back to this section. So I'm going to take this, what was this, a V06. So we move those out of the way. And we'll take this Copic V06 and we're gonna color in this little bag. And just for fun, I am gonna color the little heart O with red, because I think that will look super cute. And add a nice little pop of red on the bag so it isn't just a blob of purple on this section of the page. So we'll go back to RV29. And there we go. All right, so I'll let that dry, because it came in very dark, but once it dries, it will lighten up and feel a little bit better. But you can already see what I was explaining. So you've got beautiful, cohesive, everything's nice, and then your eye comes here because this color isn't anywhere else. So you want them to be like, oh wait, something's different here. You want the brain to stop here. And this is what I wanted to feature. One, it's the largest sort of object, the biggest square, and I feel like it just is a better fit for where you'd want to draw the eye. It might be a little bit harder to draw the eye up here because these elements are kind of small in comparison to this section. So, you know, we're going to do that. Partly the artist did that for us by making it bigger, but then we're also going to draw the eye here because of our color choices. So it's going to just make you look around the page and then land here, look around the page and land here. So I hope this video helped you understand how to pick colors. Again, when you first start out, don't feel like you have to pick every single color right away. Just sort of analyze your page and figure out the colors that you know and figure out the largest areas. So you saw that we started with the blue. This was the largest in these panels. And so we started with that color and then we did the green, which was the second largest, and made it all tie together because we used the color in multiple spots on the page. So if you keep those things in mind, it'll make it a lot easier when you're coloring. You'll be able to pick colors a lot easier and it won't be so stressful because you don't really have to pick all your colors first. As you saw, we didn't even decide this color until the very end of the page because I wanted to see how does it look? Because having an idea of what a page should look like is very different than once you start putting color down. Once you start putting color down, you might get other ideas that come to you that you're like, oh no, it would be better if it was this way or that way. But if you've already chosen all your colors, then you don't have that freedom to change your mind and make it really what you want it to be. So I hope this video helped make color selections a lot easier, less scary, and more fun, because that's what coloring really should be. Just a really fun experience where you can just have fun coloring, not worry so much about getting everything just perfect. But at the end, you know, if there's something specific you're trying to target, it is nice to have these skills. So that way it just makes the experience a lot easier, less stressful. You can just pick your colors in a calm and relaxed way and really enjoy it. If you like my videos, be sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.